And thank you so much to VSC for having me out in their virtual environment. I appreciate it, and it's an honor to be here, so thank you. I'm going to get to some music right now. This first song is called Like Fire, and ultimately I wrote it right about the beginning of quarantine, around there. And it's basically about my admiration for the way fire goes through changes. And it's in fire's ability to change constantly that makes it so magnificent and keeps it going. And that was just something that inspired me, so I wrote a song about it. So this song is called Like Fire, and I hope you like it. Let's get it going. All this time for what? What does it come to? And why break bones if you're only gonna run through? It's true, I never know what to do. Or maybe I'll find a way. Come down to the place that it started, where you were shot down, but nobody could help, 'cause they too, they struggle just like you. But I hope that you find a way. Find a way. It feels like we talk about this dated back to the oldest song, and we carry its weight as if it's fate. Am I wrong? We might walk slowly just so we can keep on. But I don't wanna live like I've been waiting for peace of mind. Now I'll shuffle my way deep down to the ground. It matters with who and what we keep around. Now let them know that we got all this time for what? What does it come to? And why break bones if you're only gonna run through? It's true, I never know what to do. Well, maybe I'll find a way. Come down to the place that it started, where you were shot down, but nobody could help, 'cause they too, they struggle just like you. But I hope that you find a way. Yeah, yeah. Something tells me just maybe we'll never know. And I only know to say when I play, it's the one thing that holds me down. My decay is talking to me, and it asks me how I'm doing. When I'm stuck and out of moves through the whole day. And at least it's a whole day, 'cause it could be just one more night. So don't forget that we got all this time for what? What does it come to? And why break bones if you're only gonna run through? It's true, I never know what to do. Well, maybe I'll find a way. Come down to the place that it started, where you were shot down, but nobody could help, 'cause they too, they struggle just like you. But I hope that you'll find a way now, and we could stay down all night long and hope for change in the morning. Maybe it's just around the corner lately. No. Oh, but I won't stay down all night long and hope for change in the morning. Maybe ain't round the corner lately. I can't wait at all, because I know that we got all this time for what? What does it come to? And why break bones if you're just gonna run through? It's true, now I never know what to do. Well, maybe I'll find a way. Come down to the place that it started, where you were shut down, but nobody could help, 'cause they too, they struggle just like you. But I hope that that you'll find a way. Thank you, thank you. Yeah, that's Like Fire. I hope you enjoyed it. This next song is actually the first song I ever completed. In short, it's basically about reshaping the fabric of our society, and making the changes that we want to change, and being the change that we want to change, or being the change that we want to see in this world. And it's been a while since I've played this song, or honestly since I've listened to it. This is the first time in a long time, so I'm excited for it, and I hope you enjoy it. So here is Redesign. The sun's shadow shifts in the rain, and we'll never die in vain. There's a song for those who listen, live on for all those names. Oh, we have found a hole, the water's running cold underneath the soul, desires dipped in gold. Seasons change, the winds blow, everyone has to know we're much more than we show. Flowers are meant to grow from way below. Redesign the world we know. A simple life could mean all the world to a tree. We evolve. So take a look at me and see just what it means to be. We resolve. Now we learned our C's and B's and A's, echoes of our yesterdays. I know what we want. We've grown out of our fears. Sat still, watched it all go by. Our world could end as our neighbors cry. I know what we saw and the sounds that we hear. dipped in gold. Seasons change, the winds blow. Everyone has to know we're much more than we show. Thank you so much for having me tonight. I hope you all have a wonderful rest of the evening. Thank you, PSC, for putting on this event. Cheers to change. And my name is Josh Gluck.